While I was out for work over the weekend, my wife was at home with our daughter, but I got off early and returned to find wife's work husband living in our home, and my daughter was calling him her real daddy, so I packed my bags, grabbed my daughter and left. On my way, I took a detour to my Mills place and showed these docs wife was hiding, and oh boy, I didn't know my one move could ruin her whole life. I've been married to my wife for 8 years, and for most of that time, I thought we had a stable and happy life. We have a 6-year-old daughter who means the world to me. I work as a pediatric nurse at a major hospital in our city, which means I have long hours, especially on weekends. My wife is a corporate lawyer at a prestigious firm, and her job also keeps her busy. I figured we were just like any other couple, juggling the responsibilities of work, parenting, and marriage. I was wrong. 3 weeks ago, my entire life was turned upside down. It started on a Saturday when I was scheduled to work a 12-hour shift. Due to some staffing changes, I was released early, which was a rare treat. I didn't tell my wife I'd be home early, thinking I'd surprise her and our daughter. Lately, my little girl had been asking for more daddy time, and I was excited to spend the extra hours with her. When I pulled into the driveway around 2 p.m., I noticed an unfamiliar car parked in front of our house. I didn't think much of it at first. My wife sometimes had colleagues over for work, even on weekends. But as I walked up to the door, I heard laughter. A man's laughter mixed with my daughter's giggles. My heart sank, but I tried to push the feelings away, telling myself it was probably nothing. I opened the door, and what I saw made my stomach drop. There was a man probably in his early 30s sitting on the floor with my daughter. They were surrounded by her toys, and he was wearing my apron like he had been cooking. My wife was sitting on the couch looking relaxed, as if this was a normal Saturday afternoon for them. But it wasn't normal, not for me. My daughter ran over to me, but instead of her usual, "Daddy," she said something that hit me like a punch to the gut. "Look, real daddy is teaching me how to build a robot." She was talking about this man, this stranger, as if he was her father. I stood there in shock, my mind racing to catch up with what was happening. My wife jumped up, clearly caught off guard by my arrival. She stammered something about how Sam, yes Sam, her so-called work husband, was staying with us temporarily because of issues with his apartment. She mentioned water damage and insurance problems, but I wasn't really listening. All I could focus on was the scene in front of me. My daughter, who I loved more than anything, was acting like this man was part of our family. Then I saw the suitcases. They were half hidden behind the couch, but I could see enough to know what was going on. These weren't suitcases packed for a short stay. They were unpacked with clothes spilling out. Men's clothes, Sam's clothes. He wasn't just visiting, he was living in my home. I felt like I was in a fog. I don't even remember what I said next, but I know I walked upstairs to our bedroom, grabbed a suitcase and started packing my things. My wife followed me trying to explain, but her words barely registered. She kept saying I was overreacting, that Sam's situation was temporary, but nothing made sense to me anymore. How long had this been going on? How long had this man been in my house pretending to be my daughter's father? What my wife didn't know was that 2 weeks earlier I had already found something suspicious. I was looking for some tax documents in her office when I stumbled upon a folder filled with papers she had clearly been hiding. There were bank statements showing regular transfers to an unknown account dating back almost a year. There were also documents about a property purchase I knew nothing about. But the worst part were the emails between her and Sam discussing their future plans. I had taken pictures of everything, planning to confront her after my shift that weekend. I never expected to find him in my house when I came home early. I packed my daughter's things while my wife stood there trying to convince me I was being irrational, but I had already made up my mind. I was done. I couldn't stay in a home where my wife had been living a double life, and I certainly wasn't going to let my daughter be a part of it either. My daughter was confused, crying as I got her into the car. She kept asking why we couldn't stay with real daddy any longer, and each word felt like a knife in my heart. How had this happened? How had my wife allowed this man to become so close to our daughter that she didn't even know who her real father was anymore? I didn't go far at first. Instead of heading to the hotel like I had planned, I drove to my mother-in-law's house. She and I had always had a good relationship, and I needed someone to talk to. I also knew that she had gone through something similar with my wife's father years ago. When I arrived at her house, I broke down and showed her the documents I had found. I showed her the bank statements, the property purchase agreement, and the emails between my wife and Sam. Her face went from shock to anger as she looked through the papers. Then she told me something that made everything worse. The property my wife had bought with Sam wasn't just any property.